Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pure Joy Podcast. I'm your host, Elaina Love, and I'm here today with Louise, my partner in crime. Hi, Katelyn.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome. She's in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm here in Bend, Oregon. And we decided we want to do this podcast today because we haven't done one in a while where the both of us get on and talk about, Katelyn gets a lot of emails and a lot of questions about things like staying on track or what are the best supplements? So this is kind of be like Q&A format today, where we talk about a few things, that a lot of stuff that's coming across Katelyn's desk and questions a lot of you guys might have. And we do want to kind of cover today, because it's May 22nd, so it's 5/22/2020. And we want to cover like what we're still in this isolation phase, even after 2 full months, going on 3 months of being in this way, like what people are doing and kind of how to stay vital and alive during this time. So the first thing I'll do, Katelyn, is the thing that spurred this whole reason that we're doing this podcast today is we got an email from someone named Julie, and she's one of our regular love campers. For those of you guys who don't know what that is, that's our Keto Gone Green course that we do 4 times a year, and it's a 1-month love camp where people come. They join us for a month and we coach them for a full month as a group, and it's really fun. But she says, basically I'll read it. She says, I'm sure I'm not the first person to fall off after a love camp, but I am surprised at myself. I gave myself the weekend after camp to be a little less strict, eating healthy but more carbs like beans and yes, some rice. Also had some alcohol, but it didn't really even taste good. Then I intended to get back on it on Monday. Instead, I have, for the second week, a fridge full of food going bad. I'm finding it very hard to sustain the level of effort required to cook as much as I did during the class. And I have several big presentations this week, been up late and just get hungry, no time to cook, and honestly, that's more my norm. I'm trying to get into the Sunday prep and at least once or twice a week cooking. I'd also like to do intermittent fasting, but I can't seem to let go of some creamer in my coffee. So basically she's just saying, her go-to is rice and Indian food, and she just wants us to give her some advice on how to get back on track because she's feeling like a little bummed at herself.
Yeah, well, I can definitely start with that one because I do feel like this is common for if you're ever on any sort of alternative lifestyle or diet program and you're being coached and then all of a sudden you don't have a coach. And we really pride ourselves on keeping the group really active in between these coaching sessions, but we're not talking to them every day like we used to be. And so you just end up sometimes going back into your regular lifestyle. And that's because you haven't created this new lifestyle and it doesn't feel like you just know exactly what to do. So that's why a lot of our peeps, they join us a few times and it becomes like a really great rhythm. But I know for me, like I'm not making a ton of food every day, and I always make sure that I have some of my staples on hand because when I'm alone and I don't have to cook for anyone else, like my go-tos are super simple. Sometimes it's a salad and like our really amazing keto bread rolls with some sort of really fatty dip, like something really nourishing. So what I wanted to tell her was it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to do all of these elaborate meals. And when you do feel inspired to make something, like say we have this really amazing green jackfruit curry, you make a lot of it at a time. And then you can freeze half of it and then save another portion or two for the next day or the day after, and really utilizing some of those leftovers so you're not constantly cooking. And I know for me, that's always really, really helpful when I just have no motivation. I always know that I have something that I can pull from in the fridge or the freezer.
Exactly. I would say the exact same thing. So you and I are very similar, Katelyn, because we're gourmet, raw food and plant-based chefs. And people think, oh, you must eat like a queen every day. And I'm like, yeah, I do. But queens eat simply, I think, a lot of times. Anyway, I love making this delicious, amazing gourmet food, especially during our course. And like you and I, Katelyn, have been doing this 4-week series. And we just did Indian food last Wednesday as an online class. And if you're wondering and you're listening, we have that available on our website for if you want to watch it. But I made all this curry and I made this, filling for samosas, which I ended up eating more as like a rice. And then I made rice pudding and I made all these foods. And I just have them now on hand, and that'll last for 3 or 4 days. So I don't have to make food every day. And if I don't have stuff like that on hand, I'm like you, Caitlin. Like I throw a bunch of arugula in the bottom of a bowl, and then I'll just chop up some veggies. And I always like to have some kind of salad dressing on hand. We have this great course called Awesome Sauces, and I'm a really big believer in sauces. Sauces take literally 10 minutes to make. So you make a sauce that'll last you 2 weeks. We have like a ranch dressing, which is made with macadamia nuts. We have a really good pesto sauce. We have a remoulade, which is like a red pepper sauce. Having these great sauces on hand are a huge part of it. So even if that just means, steaming up some quick, like yesterday, I steamed up some broccoli. I put some greens in the bottom of the bowl. I chopped up an avocado and I poured a bunch of pesto sauce over the top because I had made some. And then it's just always having the little, just like nuts and seeds that you can sprinkle on top, or some olives or some dulse. Dulse is a purple seaweed that we absolutely love. And that's super high in minerals. It's super nourishing. And again, when you're eating super nourishing foods, you're less likely to want to snack because you feel satisfied. So a lot of what's happening with people that start to snack and start to go off track is they've gotten off track with their healthy foods. And when you start eating a lot of white rice, or you start eating a lot of just unnourishing food, like white foods, your body's going to keep craving food even though you're not hungry because it's looking for the nutrition in that. So that's one hack, is just to make sure that whatever you're eating is nutritious. And we will get into talking about supplements too, because I think, Caitlin, you and I both have a few really quick go-tos that can stop you in your tracks right there of wanting to eat something sweet, or can stop you in your tracks of even wanting to eat at all. And we also love intermittent fasting, which I want to get into, but there's a lot of tricks. So the first one, I guess, let's just say, so we just can have steps, is to have food. And she says that she doesn't really want to take the time to prepare it right now. And so that's part of her issue, is getting back on track because she's not preparing these foods. So if you can just at least do a dressing or one little sauce, have a go-to thing that can just be in your fridge. You can buy bottles of olives, like Kalamata olives are great. You can even buy like dehydrated nuts and seeds from a company called Go Raw, and they have sprouted nuts and seeds. That's just a great topping for your salad. So having delicious things that are easy to throw on top of your greens is one key, just right there.
Definitely. And like for me, I always like that bready alternative thing. So when you're making something like a keto roll, or we have these awesome tortilla recipes, or even like a flatbread, we have a really great flatbread, make extra, like double the batch and then freeze it, because then you can just pop whatever it is out of the freezer and add that to your salad. And that, it's comforting and satisfying to your mind as well, because you're like, oh, I get something that's bready as well as like this delicious salad and this dressing. So again, like super simple, and you just do it when you have the motivation and you make extra.
Mm-hmm. And part of the thing that I notice for me as well as other people is when you start upping your carbs. So those of you guys who have been listening to this podcast know that we're keto-based. We're plant-based keto, which sounds interesting because it doesn't usually go together, but we don't do a lot of animal protein. Caitlin and I, neither of us are vegan, but if we do anything, it's things like poached eggs as a supplement. And so, when you're eating a keto diet, you're not hungry. You're not as hungry, because as soon as you introduce a cookie, even one, what I would call like an innocent, like, people are like, oh, just relax a little bit and have a cookie. That to someone could be like being an alcoholic and having a glass of wine. There's different kinds of accountability, and a lot of us don't have the inner accountability. So it's hard for us to stay on track. As soon as we have something, we can't stop it. So another like big piece of advice would be is to have certain foods that you just take off your list. You do not eat cookies. Like, I don't eat cookies. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat bread, and I don't eat grains. And the reason I do that is because as soon as I start, I'm going to want to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And that goes along with like prepping your pantry so that you don't have those things around. And I know for some of us, this can be difficult if we have family members and they're, not necessarily on board with your new healthy eating plan or whatever it is. But what we've told people over and over again is ask your family for help. Like, if the thing is there, we don't want to use our willpower to stay away from the candy jar or the pantry that has cookies in it. Like if you could just get it out of the house, Elaina and I both, we only keep things that we want in our bodies in our house. And one thing you can say to your family or even yourself is, if I do want that treat, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get it somewhere else, and I'm not going to bring it home with me. So that's a good like compromise for family members too. Like, hey, you can have it, but you just can't bring it home, or you just can't keep it in the house, because it just will lead to you grabbing it when you're at a moment of weakness, whether you're super, super hungry or you had a stressful situation come up. So that's another really important thing, is just don't have the other stuff around.
Right. And the late night eating is what gets a lot of people. And I know that's a fact because, 9 o'clock rolls around and your willpower is done for the day. And we do cover willpower a lot when we do our courses, but basically willpower doesn't work because you only have so much of it. And by the end of the day, it's over. So like having these environment is a huge one, which is what you just mentioned, Katelyn. And, I'm hearing actually right now, people that are listening to this going, yeah, well, I have kids and I can't tell them what to eat. Well, guess what? If you're paying for the grocery bill, then you actually can. And so if it's important to you, you can decide you're not going to be buying these snacks for everyone anymore. And that's just the way it is. Oh, well. And if they want it, they can take their allowance and go out and get their little bag of pretzels or their treat, like ride their bike or whatever, So I think if you're listening to this podcast today and this really is important to you, I think the problem with a lot of people is we have too many excuses. Well, this is why I can't succeed. And like, who going to law school is going to use that as an excuse? Oh, bummer, I didn't succeed because I have kids. Why are we why are we not loving ourselves enough to really do what it takes to succeed? And we've talked about this over and over again, but you could even have a separate cupboard that's above the fridge that you have to use a step stool to get to, that has your husband's Oreo cookies in it, or your kids' whatever chips or whatever they want. And it's not even in your view. And, you can make requests like them eating it when you're not around, or going, now that the weather's getting nicer, like going out in the backyard and eating it, or whatever you need to do to make it work for you. For your husband to keep his treats in his car. I've heard this from other people. They're like, yeah, I asked my husband just to keep his snacks in the car and like he can go on a drive and have some cookies or whatever. So what? That sounds like, oh, well, I can't ask him to do that. Well, what if that's contributing to you having a heart attack, or you being obese and getting so unhappy with yourself that you end up, the marriage fails, or that you just are not a very nice mother or person because of your diet habits? Like, isn't that more important than them getting their little bag of chips? I mean, let's get real. Right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are isolating themselves, and we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff that we never thought we would do before. I mean, who would have ever heard of the whole world staying isolated? It's just ridiculous. But yet we're not willing to let our husband give up his Oreo cookies. I mean, come on. I'm just getting this right now, like how ridiculous this is. So what needs to happen with anybody is you need to get real. You need to get serious with yourself and say, why do I keep bringing these cookies home if I know they're not good for me? What is it about me that I want to keep sabotaging myself? What is it about me that feels like I don't deserve to have these things? I can't even ask a family member to support me in this. So I think that's where it needs to start, because as we know, diets don't work. And why don't they work? Because nobody's ever really getting to the root of the cause. The root is not that you can't stop eating sugar. That's just a symptom. The root is, why do I don't believe that I deserve to have the body of my dreams, or to be healthy and vibrant and amazing? Or why don't I feel I deserve to ask my partner or my kids for what I want? Why is it always about them? And like, yes, I totally agree. Service to others is a beautiful thing. But if we're not serving ourselves first and taking care of ourselves, we're not a very good host. We're not a very good service to other people. So that's really the part you need to get real with. Get out your journal if you're listening to this and write down to yourself a question. Why am I not succeeding at this? Like, what is it about me that I feel like I don't deserve this, or I can't succeed at this? And I feel like that is the first place to start, honestly.
I love that so much. And it comes back to trust. That word came to me as you were speaking. Like, we've learned not to trust our bodies, and we've learned not to trust ourselves. What do? We're looking to the news for our source for answers. We're looking to the WHO to tell us, what is best for our bodies. We've completely let our own intuition and our own trust go. And there's a word, it's called interoception, and it's our ability to listen to what's going on inside our body. And we talk about intuitive eating all the time. That's such a big part of our program and what we ultimately really want everyone to get back to. And it's this interoception. Like if we've lost this, then we have a lesser ability to regulate when we're hungry and when we're not. We kind of just give up cues. You know, like Weight Watchers, how many of us started our health journeys with Weight Watchers? We gave up our own intuitive body ability to a piece of paper that tells us when we should eat and when we should stop. And we've given up our health. Like our whole message is taking back our health, because when we disconnect from what our bodies are telling us, that's when all these whole host of problems come. That's when we have to use willpower. That's when we have our kids who also are not on the same page because, you know, they've grown up in this environment. So yeah, I really love what you said there.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing about kids, because you know who comes to mind is Victoria Botenko, who's a friend of mine. And years ago, she wrote this book called Raw Family. Her son had type 2 diabetes, and he was very ill. She was obese. The rest of the family was not super healthy. And so she procured the entire family's diet. She took over as the head of household, as the mother, as the matriarch, and said, no more. And her son was pissed. The kids were mad at her. But guess what? He's now in his 20s, and the son is like a leader in health. He does these wild food walks. If it hadn't been for her, his life would be completely different. He would be an obese person that has diabetes, that was on medication. She said no more. Enough is enough. And I think if this isn't the time, when is the time? May of 2020. When are we going to own our health and take it back? Like at a time when there's a crisis on the planet where people think that they're going to get a disease, whether you are or not, whether you believe there's a virus out to get you or not, doesn't matter. Like we need to take back our health, and only people that can do it is us. It's not the vaccines. It's not the pharmaceutical industry. It's not our doctor. It's not the WHO. It's not Fauci or whoever is out there, Fauci, telling us this information. It's us. We know intuitively. If you were to check in for even 1 minute, you would know what's right for you and what's not. You should be going to sleep at a good hour. Like if you're staying up till 2 a.m. watching TV or watching Netflix, you intuitively keep getting this. It's called the still small voice. We all have a still small voice, and that is our higher selves. That's our consciousness. That's our intuitive knowing. It's not loud. It's not going to shake us. It's not going to shout us, but it's going to say, maybe you should turn off the TV right now or shut your computer and go to sleep at 10 o'clock. And then you're going to say, nah, and you're going to override it, right? Like the teenage rebellious kid. Or you're going to say, yeah, that probably would be good for me, because then I'll wake up early. I'll get my meditation in, which I've been skipping because I wake up just feeling like I got to get started with the day. Everything follows everything. So advice is to journal, start by journaling and listening to this still small voice. What is it that you really want me to know? And what I did once with journaling is like, and I wrote this down, what will it take for me to have my ideal body and my ideal life? And then I just listened, and I just started writing with my pen. Go to bed by 10 a.m., have all technology off by 10 p.m. and, be in bed. Get up early and meditate for 20 minutes to an hour. Make sure you're journaling every day. And then it was just like, be more loving and kind to yourself. And all these different things came through. And like your inner voice that you're talking to yourself with, that one that says, oh, you're fat, or, oh, you're never going to be good enough, or, oh, you're such a slob, or you're so lazy because you didn't run. That's the dialogue that we need to catch and say, no more. I am a being on this planet. I have this amazing gift of life to be in a physical body. And I'm going to do the best I can by it. I'm going to do right by it. And so that's where we need to start and listen. So I guess the commitment is to listening again. Let's start listening to ourselves. And the thing that's getting you to listen to this podcast right now, that impetus to push the play button, was part of it. There's some part of you that found this, that finds us, that finds our love camp, that takes our month-long courses, that finds these recipes that are going to be good for you, that clicks on the shopping list to go do the shopping or shop online. All those things take something in you, even the movement of your finger. So starting to trust more that you are on the right track. And when you hear that voice of, that inner voice, not the healthy inner voice, but the negative inner voice saying, nah, 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 nah. Like, I see you, I hear you, but I'm not doing that anymore. We're done. It's like a breakup. I'm breaking up with you. I'm only going to be around people that are going to make me feel good, and that includes myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that so much. And it's so true. When you're ready, you find the information. All of a sudden, these podcasts come. Like, I love that you're in the exact right place at the right time. And I feel like that's a key point with your family too, because what you said about Victoria Butenko and her son, my mom had a similar situation with her stepson. He fought and fought and fought, eating healthy for so long. And now every time he sees her, he says, thank you so much. You changed my life. Like, I now crave healthy foods. And it took him, discovering it for himself. So we don't necessarily want to force our family into it, but having it around and having it in their face, like, they will eventually turn on and they'll start finding the information for themselves. So it's like getting the information out there and allowing other people to witness your transformations and stuff too. We talk about that a lot. Like, when you are the best teacher, when you're just showing up and you're just doing your thing and you're just staying true to you, and you're, doing your cleanses, or you're drinking your green juice, or you're doing that, and people start to notice, oh, wow, you're in such a great mood all the time, or you have so much energy. That's really the way that we can continue motivating ourselves too. And when we get that feedback that we're doing something good and it's motivating others, I find that to be also a really great way to stay on track.
Exactly. So we do one little thing and someone notices, or we notice, wow, like, I'm looking in the mirror, like, I look a little different. My skin looks clearer, or my eyes look brighter, or, oh, wow, like my stomach's finally flat. And that could just be putting intermittent fasting on your calendar. So what I do is I put it on my calendar, and now it's kind of more of a habit, like I do, where I do 36 hours every Sunday from like Saturday night to Monday morning, I fast. And whatever fasting is for you, we have blogs written on fasting. We have a whole cleansing ebook that you can learn a lot about fasting. But a lot of you guys know about fasting and taking one day a week to fast. And what that does is it hits the reset button. So then on Monday morning, you're like, wow, I'm already noticing. So we need to so I'm the kind of person that needs to sometimes do things big, because I need to notice it. And if I'm doing something that's so infinitesimal that I can't notice it, it's not going to be as motivating for me. But if I do a cleanse, or I do even just like the fast one day a week, I'm going to start to notice, like you said, Katelyn, like, I'm just feeling, my mind feels clearer, or I just feel more joyful. I'm just a happier person. I get up earlier on it and I don't feel groggy. Like, these little things will start to like click in. And then when you do end up having, like Juliet asked, like, if you have this cookie or you have this rice, you're like, wow, I feel groggy. That doesn't feel good. So we need to get it to where we're doing, I call it the 80-20 rule. We're doing 80% of the time, we're doing what's the best, absolute best for us. And only 20% of the time are we like, maybe, once a week, we want to stay up super late with our friend or partner or whoever and like watch movies, or, be a little decadent, have a glass of wine. But then the other 80%, we're like, nope, going to bed at 10. I'm getting up early. I'm having my green juice, or whatever it is for you. And we can talk about that next, the supplements that you want to take and like what we find works the best for our bodies. If you get into this thing where you've got it on the calendar that I'm fasting once a week, oh, didn't make Sunday. Okay, push that to Monday. I'm definitely doing Monday. And a lot of our students do that, where they're like, I couldn't do Sunday, but I'm picking another day. And then you're getting into this routine. So routine really is important. And I love this saying, and I don't know who said it, but it's like a ancient saying, but it says diligence to the last breath, which means we're never done. We're never like, I made it. I'm at my goal weight. I made it. I'm, anti-aging. I made it. I made that green juice. It's like, great, you did it. And now let's figure out how to make this a way of life. And once it becomes a way of life, it's the same as brushing your teeth. Making a green juice, brushing my teeth, same thing. Making my bed. It's just part of your routine. You get up every day and you do it. It could take a month. It could take 2 months. It could take a year to get into this routine. But the first step, like you said, Katelyn, is getting yourself here and trusting that you made the right decision, that you're synchronistically found this, and that it's time, that you're over it. So what happens is the pain has to get big enough, because we are pleasure seekers and we're pain avoiders. The pain has to get big enough that we want to do something about it. So maybe now is that time where the pain is large enough that you're sick of feeling sick and tired, you're sick of feeling fat, you're sick of feeling groggy, you're sick of feeling irritable, but whatever one that is, that you're ready to make a step in the right direction. And maybe if you're already on this path and you've made 20 steps in the right direction, you're ready to make that next step, whatever that is, which is giving up sugar for good, giving up grains for good, giving up gluten for good, or saying that I'm definitely fasting 1 day a week, no matter what. Like, it has to be a decision that you make and you yourself know what that decision is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Well, why don't we talk about maybe some like the supplements or the foods that we love? Because I was telling Elaina this earlier offline, but I do believe that the right nutrition can help you stay on track without you even thinking about it. Like, I take spirulina every day, or chlorella. These are like really high chlorophyll rich foods. We call them superfoods. And they definitely keep me on track because they light me up. They light up my brain. They alkalize my body. They help my gut stave off any of that yeasty candida or any bad bacteria in there that could be telling me that I need sugar. Like when I'm consuming a chlorophyll rich substance like spirulina or chlorella every day, I know that it's just so easy not to want anything else but what I'm eating. And, we always talk about having a lot of healthy fats in your diet because that's going to keep you satiated. Like, we are the food queens. Like, we know all the right foods to help with sugar cravings or staying on track or not reaching for the cookies. But we also are the supplement queens because our foods don't necessarily have all of the nutrition that they have once had in our ancient history. And sometimes we need that extra boost of magnesium, which actually does help with sugar cravings. If you're magnesium deficient, you're more likely to be a sugar burner and to need carbs every couple hours. That's pretty well known in research right now. So having a magnesium supplement, and I know, Elaina, you have so many other things that you go to as well.
Other tricks. But so we will put all of this in, if you're watching on YouTube, we'll put it down below this video. And if you're listening to this podcast, just click on the show notes. We'll put links to our favorite supplements. But one of them, like you said, is magnesium, Katelyn, and 80% of the population is 80% deficient. So you get that? Like, so it's most likely that you are deficient because 80% of us are. And then of those 80%, you're 80% deficient. So you only have 20% of the magnesium you need. What happens when you start taking magnesium is you get more regular with your bowels is one first thing that starts to happen. If you're an older person, or maybe if you're on a keto diet and you get foot cramps regularly or leg cramps, and I even got these as a kid, you get the Charlie horses, they call them. Magnesium can be one of the nutrients that could be the reason for that. A better sleep, more even keel. So I take 2 kinds of magnesium, and we'll list them both. One is a supplement, which is a pill form, and the other is a liquid that I just started taking, Katelyn, because you and I share an Amazon account. So I saw that she had ordered it, and I was like, what's that? And it's this big bottle of magnesium liquid. So now I fill up one of these 30, you can see this bottle if you're on YouTube, 32-ounce bottle of water every morning, and I put my magnesium liquid in there, and then I put MSM, which is a really great supplement, which is great for joints, nail, hair, skin, making you look more youthful, creating an inhospitable environment for bad bacteria. The list is so huge, but I put MSM in my water. And then I also put something called Keto 1000, which is an electrolyte. Electrolytes have magnesium, potassium, calcium, all the essential minerals. And so that is also in my water, and it makes it taste yummy because it has a little bit of flavor and stevia in it. And so that I guarantee, I tell myself that I have to do at least 1 32-ounce bottle a day of water, which isn't even enough. I should be probably drinking 2 of them, but most of us aren't even drinking that much water because we're drinking coffee and we're drinking tea and we're drinking dehydrating liquids. So we have to make sure we're getting enough water in. So water's key, or liquids are key. So mine's water with some supplements. And then the other thing you mentioned was the green powder. And since I'm not a big smoothie girl anymore, like I've decided that smoothies are not for me. And here's the reason. I intermittent fast. So I don't eat my first meal of the day till generally 1 or 2 p.m. depending on the day. Like I ran 3 miles this morning, so I'm probably going to be hungry closer to 1. But on days that I don't run in the morning, I'm not usually hungry till 2. I'll just have coffee and my water in the morning, and I keep busy, and that's when I get most of my work done, is the first half of the day. Most of my computer work, most of my editing, most of my things podcasts we're doing now before noon. And then, so that for me is my routine, is I try and get most of my stuff done on the fasting half of the day, because I'm busy, I'm not thinking about food. But what I do, and this is because of you, Katelyn, now every day somewhere around 10 a.m., I'll get like just a 1 cup glass of water. It's not a huge cup because I won't drink it all. It's the smallest amount, which is 8 ounces. And I scoop a big tablespoon of either spirulina or what's called Vita-Mineral Green. Vita-Mineral Green is by a company called Health Force Nutritionals. It's got wheatgrass, oatgrass, barley grass. It's got seaweed in it, and it's got medicinal mushrooms in it. So it's a whole mineral complex. If I'm taking that every day, my nails are white and strong and hard. I have energy. I'm just like, wow, I just feel super clear and focused, and I'm not hungry. Like you said, Katelyn, those minerals in there just really do something to stop my hunger. Is it the most delicious tasting food on the planet? Absolutely not. It tastes like grass. It's not delicious. That's why I put it in 1 cup. I stir it and just go glug, glug, glug. Usually like 4 gulps, and I'm done. Wipe my mouth off and go. I'm not going to try and sip it or make it delicious. Like, I'm one of those people that's just like, and you know that about me now. My personality is all or nothing, get or done. So chug it down, done. I don't have to think about it again. So even if you're not going to change your complete diet, and you're not going to start, like what we're telling you to do is add like 80% of your diet should be plant-based and, really healthy, nutritious foods. If you're not that person and you're like, oh, my husband or my kids are never going to do this, guess what? You can get your kids to chug down an 8-ounce thing of Vita-Mineral Green before you let them on their technology, or before they get their breakfast, or whatever it is. I've seen moms do it all over the planet. Mm-hmm. Just have some kind of rule, or even for your husband, here, honey, chug this down before you do XYZ, before you go out on your run, or before you, have that breakfast.
Mm-hmm. And or put it in a smoothie. You can't even taste that stuff. It's really good in there too. And it's another just way to make sure that you're covering all of your bases. Like, I used to be so concerned about needing to have a huge salad every single day to make sure that I got in all of my greens. Like, these green powders are a quick way to do it. And, Julie, who we mentioned at the beginning of this call, like, she doesn't have time all the time to make these meals. So these green powders can really make sure that you're just, that you got your greens in that day, especially if it's in the morning. You don't have to think about it. Of course, we want to eat a ton more veggies, but sometimes we don't always have that option. So that's another key reason why I like these green powders too. And I just want to mention one thing about the water. I think that's really great that you add all that stuff in. And I know if you're a person who gets that afternoon slump, like, after you eat lunch or sometime in the afternoon, you just feel so tired. And that's usually when we're reaching for more food, because we have this weird sense that eating something is going to provide us energy. And when we're not eating the right foods, that can actually be the opposite. It's actually sucking energy from our digestive system. All of our energy is going towards digesting. So having that mineral rich water, sometimes we're just dehydrated, or sometimes we're just mineral depleted. Like, if I have that, or my B vitamins in my water in the afternoon, or a scoop of one of those electrolyte powders, and I chug it down, it's like, oh, my cells are alive again. I can move on. I don't have to be in this fog. Like, it's just as simple as drinking a bunch of water. And if you're adding, your minerals in, even better.
Yeah. And I want to tell a quick story about that. When I was at a festival once, I was running around, I was, doing cooking demos, and I had a food booth, and, just so like, I didn't have time for anything. And then I got a break. And so I did this what's called a live blood cell analysis, and they take a drop of your blood and they put it under a microscope. And she's like, you're dehydrated. And she's like, look at your cells. And they, instead of being these round circles, they were these flat little discs. And like, I was feeling tired and I was feeling dehydrated. And I'm like, right. And what that did for me is visually showed me that what happens when you're dehydrated is it's not just you're thirsty, like, oh, that's it. Your cells actually get squished. So that's why when we drink water, the cells plump back up, and then they're like happy. And when our cells are happy and bouncing around in our brain, think of your brain, then you're going to have energy. And so again, Katelyn, you're so right. Like, even as you're making your lunch, like, get as much water in as you can, because you're way less likely to overeat. And that's why we teach the keto diet as well, is because lunch shouldn't make you tired. Like, even though I wait till 2 to eat and I get most of my stuff done in the morning, I still have energy after lunch, because I do not eat more than 10 net carbs in one meal, which means like I'm eating things like salad with a herby salad dressing and lots of olive oil and avocado and all the low carb kind of foods. I'm not eating rice. I'm not eating starchy root vegetables that I've steamed up. If I'm eating a steamed vegetable, it's something like cauliflower or broccoli. And that's why we teach this to you guys, because so many people claim the same thing. They're like, wow, now I can eat a meal and not be tired afterwards. And if you're tired, you're not going to want to be in the kitchen making food. And so that was Julie's dilemma. I started eating more carbs and now I don't feel like making food anymore. So it's a vicious cycle. So this is just a reminder to hydrate and to also try and keep your carbohydrates low during especially your lunch meal. If you want to carb up or eat carbs, wait till evening when you're done with your day, and then you're way less likely to keep snacking throughout the day because your day's almost over. And just like have a routine for yourself. Have your rules. Like, nope, I don't eat carbs at lunchtime. That could be a great rule to add in if you just want to start with one thing. If I want to have that cookie, I'll have it later. If I want to have that rice, I'll have it later. And that always works too, because a lot of times it's like our inner child is saying, but I want that. And if you say, you know what, you can have that, but let's just wait till tomorrow, or let's wait till tonight, or let's wait till another time. And a lot of times what will happen is when that time rolls around, you're not really in the mood for it. But if you say, no, you can't do it, or you shouldn't do it, then that's when you, like I do it to myself, like I'm going to go on a 3-day cleanse or fast. And then I'm like, I find myself in the kitchen eating because there's some part of me that's like scared or like, no, I want to do that. So try to avoid the words like don't and can't. I mean, not don't, but try and avoid the words like can't and shouldn't. And you can say, I don't eat that, but don't say I shouldn't eat that or I can't. Or like I can't have it, because that sounds like deprivation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're wondering about deprivation, we are not about it. So we have a podcast. We'll have to link that one in the show notes too, because I love that one. Like, everything we're saying doesn't mean deprivation ever. When we start to feel deprived, that's when, like you said, your inner child comes through and you want to eat all the things that you never even thought about eating before. Like, you just need to nourish that part of you. And we're all about the nourishment and satisfaction. That's why we love our recipes. And that's why our, Keto Gone Green participants love those recipes. Like, we can have cookies. Like, we don't have to say no to cookies. We just have an amazing alternative for that.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we don't want you to think we're saints either, because we love our keto cookies and we love our chocolates that we make. And like, I'll make, yummy desserts that just don't have sugar in them. And like, so I'm not about like never having treats. So I think that's important also to know, if you're listening to this, it's like, oh, these girls are strict. We're not actually. We just did make different choices. So that's really what it comes down to, is you have to make some kind of choice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks. But what are you choosing? Are you choosing super healthy, vibrant, nutrient-filled foods, or are you choosing empty calories? And I know, like with this podcast, and those of you listening, most of you probably are already on that track of like already on the health track, but there might be some new people that aren't. And every day people are waking up, and you're waking up spiritually, but you're also waking up energetically to like, I'm ready to have the life of my dreams. And what better time to start than now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, and I know we have on there too, Katelyn. Okay, so we want to talk about supplements. So we did talk about those. So let's also mention, you mentioned B vitamins, but do you want to talk a little bit more about those?
Yeah. Well, the B vitamins that I love is something called Max B, and we sell them on the website because Elaina and I take them pretty much every single day because of the stressful environment that we're all living in. Stress sucks up B vitamins. So if you have a hard time sleeping, or if you're just like wiry, or you get that anxious, like butterfly stomach all the time, it could be that you're just deficient in B vitamins. And this has happened to me over and over again. And then I start taking my B vitamins again and I feel amazing. And, actually I got my brother turned on to these, and he says that he'll take them in the afternoon when he's having an afternoon slump. And he says it just brightens up his mood. Like, he's on the computer all of the time. He's, running a company. He's super busy. And he says these things are savior for him. It's like the one thing he latched on was those B vitamins. So I totally believe in them, because also our food is very void of a lot of the B vitamins that we really need to keep our bodies healthy.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the B vitamins that you take as a capsule, you're just peeing out. You've probably heard that saying that says expensive urine. Have you ever peed and you can just smell vitamins coming out, like if you take some tablet? So that's why the liquid is amazing, because Again, like sometimes I'll put it in my water in the morning and sip it throughout the day. But like what you said with your brother is like, I'll probably do that when I'm done with this podcast. I'll put it in a glass, another like 8-ounce clear glass. Put it in a clear glass. Don't put it in a coffee cup. Like put it in something you can see that's on the counter. It's yellow. So you start with a half a teaspoon and then you can work your way up to a teaspoon. And you put it in and just sip on that just for the next hour or two. And like you said, suddenly so that is so tied to brain health, because I had a client who's also a friend who said she was bipolar, and every time she'd start to feel that bipolar come back, she knew she needed the B vitamins. So I was, because I sell the B vitamins, she'd message me and go, I need those B vitamins again. I'm noticing the bipolar is coming back. So that's how powerful that is it actually can affect people with bipolar. The B vitamins are so crucial. And I think you said this, Katelyn, but stress gobbles up B vitamins. So if you're all stressed out or you're not sleeping well, you need these B vitamins. These are like, I would say these top the list of my number one supplements. B vitamin, for me, my favorites are B vitamin and MSM. I take those daily. And then I also take another supplement by a company called Thorne. It's THORNE, and it's called 2-A-Day multivitamin. And it's not a tablet, it's a capsule. And so I'll take those with a meal, and I don't take those regularly, but I take them often, at least 3 or 4 times a week. And I just find that, you'll find your rhythm of what works for you, but I would trust that company, Thorne. I would also trust the company the one that we have with the B vitamins, which is a company called Quantum Nutrition. And they have 2 names. One is called Premier Research Labs. And that's for practitioners, but like if you're just a normal consumer, it would be under Quantum Nutrition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I would say, there's quite a few that keep me on track, but the only other one, and I wouldn't call this a supplement, I would call it more, it's an herbal tincture, and I was going to say ayahuasca. No, that is not your daily supplement. Ashwagandha.
Yeah.
And that's another one, especially right now, we're all feeling a little bit more heightened stress than we're used to. That one is an adaptogen, and it really just goes in your body and nourishes those adrenals and helps you better able to cope with stress. And I would say when we're better able to cope with stress, we're more likely to stay on track, and we're less likely to self-sabotage because we're feeling nourished inside. So that is another one that I take on a daily basis. We carry one, like I said, it's an herbal tincture. So it's an alcohol extraction. There's definitely capsules that you can get, but I do find that the tincture works really, really well in this instance because it's very highly absorbable. Whereas sometimes herbal supplements, when our stomach has to break them down, like let's say it's a powder or a capsule, we don't necessarily uptake as much as we would with something like a tincture.
Yeah, and will you address the alcohol? Because I know some people are like, oh, it has alcohol, but it's such a small amount. And the reason, you can go ahead and talk about why they use alcohol to extract.
Definitely. It's an ancient method that has been used for centuries and centuries because it works so well. So alcohol is a way to break down nutrients, and it kind of like sucks them up in that tincture form. So yeah, like you said, you're taking very little of an alcohol. And if you're worried about the alcohol, you can definitely put it in a hot tea or even just put it on the stove for a minute. That alcohol will just burn right off. But if it's just so much more potent than the powder as an extract form.
Yeah, it really just gets all the nutrition out. And I love it because it's something you just get in your system quickly and you can feel it absorbing right away. You don't have to digest it. And whenever we can bypass the digestive system, like in the form of drinking green juices, which we didn't really address, and we don't have to go into a lot of detail, but if you are someone who loves to make juice, or you know how to make juice, or you want to watch our online free juicing course, get into the habit of making juice maybe at least 3 times a week. We love a celery lemon juice. It's just celery juice with some lemon in it. You can get into way more like detail once you start getting the habit of juicing, but we've got lots of free juicing recipes on our website as well, which is purejoyplanet.com, and just click on the recipes button. But yeah, start juicing, because that's going to not only hydrate your cells and plump them up and make them feel amazing, but all the nutrition that you're getting is bypassing the digestive tract. And it goes immediately, the second it hits your tongue, it goes straight up into the brain and absorbs into the cells, and you don't have to worry about digesting anything. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we love juices.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Anything else we want to talk about? I know we're already coming up on the hour. We could just keep talking and talking, but we'll save it for another one. And we want you guys to, I'll see what you say, Katelyn, but we want you guys to send in your email your questions into podcast@purejoyplanet.com. Or just go to our website, purejoyplanet.com, and click on contact us and send us an email. Send us what you want us to talk about, because we love giving you guys this information. We just could do this all day long. There's a lot of questions and probably things we didn't cover, but anything else you want to cover before we go, Katelyn?
Well, the only other question that comes up often is, how do I get started on this journey? Like, let's say in our Keto Gone Green program, or even just wanting to get started on a new health journey without spending a ton of money on food. Like, we all know that our financial situations have changed. Is there any way to do this without, breaking the bank and not being able to afford this lifestyle long term?
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, I find really easy ways not to spend a ton of money. And I also always have it in the back of my mind that I'm spending money on my health for my future. I am spending money so that I don't have to go to the doctor, or I don't have to go to the hospital for something that I am, working on my health right now. So I always look at it as an investment into my future. And, with my partner as well, I'm constantly investing in him to make sure that he is his best self. So first thing I always like to look at with people is, what are you spending on that isn't contributing to your health? Like, are you going out for meals a couple times a week? Is there a way that you can then spend that money to buy a few extra things that are organic? Or that you can buy a bottle of the vitamin mineral green? Like, really all it takes is one weekend not going out and you have yourself a bottle of spirulina or vitamin mineral green. Like, it's not a huge investment, and that bottle is going to last you at least a month, if not two. So really, like, maybe, you don't buy that extra pair of shoes that you normally would. Like, what is it, $60 to $100? That's another bottle of superfoods, or that's a week's worth of organic groceries.
I love that. You're so right. And guess what? Coffee is $5. And I'm sure a lot of people during this pandemic, during the isolation, have noticed you're not spending $5 a day on coffee anymore. Like, most people aren't going out for coffee. I still see lines at the Starbucks and stuff. But that $5 a day, like you said, Katelyn, like, that's $25 to $30 a week. 35 if you're getting it every day. And then, like, add that up times 4. 30 times 4, 3 times 4 is $120. There's a bunch of organic foods you can buy. And yeah, I think that's another excuse, like I was talking about earlier. Like, we want to come up with excuses why we're not doing it. And like, I'm growing a garden right now. And yeah, I just paid $100 to get some dirt delivered. And I paid for the wood to make my own boxes. And, but in the end, I'm going to have that garden for years, and it's going to pay off in droves. I mean, the huge, like, I know you have a garden right now, Katelyn, and the amount of food that you can grow and freeze. And I would also suggest investing in what's called a meal, and there's different names for it, but that's one of the brand names. And you can freeze your vegetables by sucking out all the air, and they will last for such an indefinite amount of time in the freezer. So utilize freezers for a lot of this stuff if you're growing your own food. And then you always have organic produce on hand, and it's already pre-chopped, and you have no excuse for why you're not steaming up vegetables or making smoothies or all the different things you can do with your produce.
And one other thing that came to mind is where I am, and I know where I lived in Calgary before, we have something called CSAs, and those are just basically veggie boxes that are organic. They come from local farms, and they'll give you a box of veggies each week. And some of these you can actually pick which veggies that you want, because I think, before you just kind of got whatever was, harvested that week. But there's a lot more options for that too. And that's a really affordable way to get even better than organic is local, especially if they're not, of course, spraying or anything like that. So that's another great way to save too. If it's really breaking the bank for you to buy organic veggies, maybe look into your local farmers as well.
Yeah. And I would say, we really promote organic, and we really feel like organic is important, but look up, we also have an article on our website about the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Like, I think it's in our spa series, right, Katelyn? There's like an article in there in our blog. But anyway, you can even Google it or search it on the internet. It talks about the cleanest 15 vegetables that are not organic that you can buy. The biggest ones you want to avoid is berries. Don't ever buy non-organic berries, or red bell peppers or tomatoes, because those, anything with a super thin skin, you want to make sure you're getting organic. But there's a lot of food like avocados and maybe locally grown greens where you know that they're not being sprayed, or maybe things with peels on them, that even like something that like an orange or a lemon or whatever. But so you don't have to always get organic if you can't afford it. And there are a lot of grocery stores. There's one that's getting really popular called Grocery Outlet, that their produce is definitely cheaper than the other stores. So just do your research. There's always going to be sales. There's always going to be places that are having discounts. Look for things like that. So you can make it work. And even like the company, this is the last one we want to talk about, Katelyn, is Qualia, which I know is not, this is going to be a little more expensive, but you're going to eat less food when you're taking, this is a nootropic. So nootropic is a brain food, and it's basically feeding your brain with all the nutrition, a lot of the things you need for your mind to function optimally, and it gives you tons of energy, and you end up eating way less food on the days when you're taking this. So, and right now, the only reason I brought it up is because I just noticed there was a email that came out where they're having a sale. So places are always having sales. If you want to talk a little bit about Qualia and the brain food.
Sure. Well, yeah. And another reason we bring it up is we also have a discount code, because we love supporting these companies and we love supporting you. Like everything that we talk about, we basically reach out to these companies and see how they could support our listeners too, because I mean, sometimes it can feel really overwhelming when you're starting on a new path and you're trying something new. But I've definitely gotten a lot of people who are in my inner circle on Qualia, just because it is a day changer. And I'm all about like natural ways to boost your mood. And this is another one that's, it's a brain food, but it's also boosting your serotonin and your dopamine and all your feel-good hormones, so that you naturally don't want to look for a dopamine hit in your food, which usually comes from sugar. Like when we're wanting that little spike in dopamine, we'll definitely go for the cupcake or the cookie. But if we are naturally feeding our body more of that, we're more even keeled, we're more balanced. And I know for me with the Qualia, if I have a busy work day, or recording podcasts or doing interviews or teaching classes, like it definitely keeps me on track. And like you said, the hunger is just kind of staved off. I'm not really interested as much.
Yep. And on the days that I take it, I don't take it every day, because, and we'll link to the pod, the people that are part of Qualia, and there's two. One's called Focus and one's called Mind, and I think they're coming to have a third product now too. So there's a lot of ones, but the one that I love is called Mind, and it's a black label, and we'll link to that, but you can check out their other products as well. But what I love about it is I stay super focused. It's on the days when I really need to sit, like mental work done, or even just follow up on phone calls I need to make, or things like that, because I tend to be, as a Gemini, and tend to be a person that just loves to be moving around, and it's hard to get me to stay in one place. This will get you to stay in one place and stay super focused, and the hunger kind of goes out the window. Like you just aren't thinking about food at all. Some of them have caffeine and some don't, so you can totally choose which one. I would recommend getting the caffeine free if you want to take it later in the day. I try to take it before 10 a.m. if I'm going to take the one with caffeine. But yeah, check out the link that we have, and the link we think is amazing. And what the guy said when I interviewed him is that it starts to feed your brain so that you don't need to take it all the time. It actually starts to you start having that nutrition within your body. And so yeah, we just think it's a super awesome product. And you should, we could just kind of go ahead and finish the podcast now, but one thing we want to say as we depart is thank you so much for listening. And if you want to support us, the best way you can do that is by shopping on our store, because we give you all this podcast information for free, and we try and do as much as we can for free. But in order for us to stay and keep going and build our business, our store we've set up, and Katelyn, you can talk a little bit about the store because you run the store.
Yeah, sure. So it's just store.purejoyplanet.com, and we carry a lot of the things that Elaina and I take on a daily basis. There's definitely nothing on there that we both don't consume regularly. And it's just a place where you can kind of get some of these superfoods. You don't have to go to a bunch of different places to get it. And we definitely try and give the best prices possible. So definitely check the store out.
And we have a really great CBD. We just upped our CBD oil. We have 2 that we both love, and we take it all the time. And also we have free online courses, like a juicing course and a couple other things on there that you don't have to pay for, like a spices course. But then we also have whole online programs where you can learn to be a plant-based chef. You can learn pastries, you can learn desserts, you can learn a lot of different stuff. So check out our site. And we also have retreats coming up. We have one in Mount Shasta coming up in July. Yes, we are going ahead with our in-person Mount Shasta retreat. It's a woman's retreat, and it's a keto retreat. So it's 3 days of learning how to be keto, plant-based, and getting to connect with other amazing women and meditating together and hiking together and doing all kinds of fun stuff together. And we'll continue to do retreats. So just check out the website, purejoyplanet.com, and get on our mailing list so that you get updates whenever we're doing something. And that's kind of it. That's how you can support us, is by taking our classes, shopping at our store, and just keep coming back to this podcast. Share it with a friend. Give us a rating and review. Just keep sharing this, because we're here, even if you maybe didn't like everything you heard today, the only reason we're doing this is because we love people, and we love being in service, and we love helping other people get healthy like we did. And we're just sharing everything that we've learned, and maybe not 100% resonates with you, but we're just trying to do something good on the planet.
And we're on a mission. We're on an unstoppable mission, whether you like it or not.
We're here. We're not going anywhere. So we love you guys. And yeah, like, that's another good thing to know. We're not going anywhere. I've been in this business for over 20 years. Katelyn's been in it for over 10. I've had this company, purejoyplanet.com, for over 20 years. So we're not a fly-by-night company. We're not going anywhere. We're here for you, and we want to keep being here for you. Yeah. So thank you for joining us today, and we love you.
Thank you.